I wouldn't eat before I went to Weight Watchers. I would go on like a 6 to 8 mile run, no water, no nothing. And then I would make sure to go to the bathroom before I went, and then I'd go weigh. Like, it was fine if I was lower than 115, but I couldn't be lower than 109. That was not okay. They were gonna kick me out. So when I was down to 107, I would wear a hoodie when I weighed in. I wouldn't take my shoes off. I would throw my car keys in my pocket of my hoodie. And I did that probably for about 6 months.
Well, hi, Misty. Thank you for coming and doing
Hello.
Drunkish. Today we're talking about anorexia, and it was something that you've struggled with on and off for many years, and I think will be a very relatable story to a lot of people.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let's just start. Let's just start at the beginning. I know the story. Share it with our listeners. How did it start? What was your upbringing like?
Sure, sure. So I grew up in a suburb of Salt Lake City. I still live in the same city. It's called Sandy, Utah. It's 20-minute drive from downtown Salt Lake City. Um, Grew up in I was raised LDS Mormon, um, but not we weren't completely entrenched in the Mormon religion. My dad was not Mormon. My mom was raised Mormon. We kind of just got sent to church because that's what everybody did. And so a lot of my, I think, early memories are of just perfect families, perfect, you know, moms, and, um, just that whole sense of um, appearances matter kind of thing. And so kind of stopped going to church around 15, which was fine, which was also right around the time that I had my first eating disorder situation. Um, I I wasn't extremely overweight. I was just kind of a little pudgy in end of elementary school, all through middle school, and I really just didn't want to go to high school being heavy. And so I dieted between 8th and ninth grade and went to school, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, you look so great."
But was this
And
was this after that kid made a comment to you about?
yes.
And I also want you to touch on because I think this is really important. Prior to you starting to have an eating disorder and things
Mhm.
switching up, you loved treats, right? Like we all do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely had a sweet tooth. Um, my mom was just an amazing baker, an amazing cook, and so a lot of, I think, just like most people, your upbringing, childhood memories are of food and holidays and things like that. So I always loved that kind of thing. And our house, our pantry was known in the neighborhood as the pantry that had all the great treats, and we had Ding Dongs and Suzy Hughes and Fruit Loops and all the sugar cereals and Pop Tarts, and um, a lot of our friends didn't have that kind of food at their house, and so a lot of times they come to our house, and um, I, you know, just like a lot of kids, I sneak treats, and there you always knew that you shouldn't overindulge, but I like to overindulge a little bit, so yeah, so I was a littler on the heavy side, and um, in middle school, I we had like a National Honor Society banquet from 8th grade to ninth grade. And I remember they had like this huge cake that they cut, and there was a lot of pieces of cake on plates. And um, I was there with my friend, and we went to go get dessert. And I thought, I'll just grab a piece for my mom and dad. So I had 3 pieces of cake. And this kid that I was friends um, with two other kids, very popular boys at the time, made a comment to the effect of, "Gosh, Misty, do you really need 3 pieces of cake?" And I was just humiliated and devastated, and I just wanted to leave. So we kind of just left, and I remember crying in the car on the way home, and um, yeah, I just was like, I don't want to be like this when I go to high school. I wanna I wanna get some weight off and look good. So
Do you
yeah, that
think
was
in
kind of that.
retrospect that you were even honestly chubby?
Um, not. I would say yes. I think so. Comparing to my two best friends, who I'm short, 5'2", and my two best friends were, they're 5'5", 5'7", somewhere in there. Very tall, thin girls, and I was chubby, and I feel like I was buying clothes from, um, like I stopped buying clothes out of the girls department earlier than I probably should have, and but I wasn't like obese or anything, but yeah, I would say I was probably a little heavy.
So that comment tapped into something that you already were maybe slightly worried about.
Oh yeah. No, I knew. And I in looking around and comparing, and um I knew I was on the heavier side, and like you do in middle school. I think I remember uh that movie, oh, Flashdance, came out, and that Cynthia Rhodes character had that cute spiky haircut, and kind of, it was like a female mullet essentially, and so I got that haircut, and not good. It just like accentuated my roundness of my face, and you just try really hard, and you're just so awkward in those years anyway, and it's just a hard time, and so um, I just didn't want to feel awkward anymore. I just wanted to feel like everybody else is what I wanted to feel like.
So you tell your mom, right?
I tell my mom, and she says, um she says, I understand. I'm happy to help you, and very supportive. Um and let's walk. Let's, that kind of thing.
Normal mom shit.
Normal mom stuff. So I remember walking with our neighbors across the street. There that mom and my friend who was a year older, and we would walk, like an hour every night, maybe not every night, but several nights a week. And um all I remember, a lot of the women in our neighborhood walked and walked and walked, and everybody's mom was on a diet, and you know everybody's mom was doing Jane Fonda in the basement or going to jazzercise, and so I just you just okay, well, I guess that's what I've got to do too. So yeah, I lost weight, and I came to my freshman year in high school as like a completely different person.
Now, were you also starting to restrict food or were you just walking?
I was mainly just walking, and I would say that I wasn't really restricting food until I got into my freshman year in high school. Um, I was mainly just kind of watching what I was eating, and but the comments that I received, and the, "Oh my gosh, how'd you do it? You look so amazing." I just thrived on that. I didn't get that kind of attention, and I just, in the back of my mind, I thought, I wonder, if I lost another 5 pounds, what would people say? And then it kind of just started to spiral. And that's when I really started restricting foods, and um, massive like exercise. But at the time for me, it was walking. Like, if I didn't get my walk every day, I was just a horrible, awful person. I felt bad for my family, apologizing for the behavior. I was awful to live with if I didn't get, my meal the way I wanted it, or if it wasn't something that, if my mom made dinner and it wasn't something I wanted, I kind of threw a fit. Yeah, it was, I was kind of awful. Like, it was not, um, it was, I don't have, happy memories of that time. I was very, very in the throes of it. So
So what happens? So you do start to lose more weight.
I do start to lose more weight. Um, and I really don't have clear memories about how I stopped doing it. I just kind of, yeah, I went through high school and I gained a little bit of weight, probably more towards graduation time, but I was still pretty thin. But I got a scholarship to a great university here in Utah, and I just kind of stopped doing it. I just put it on the back burner, and
And that's our show. Everything was
yeah,
fine.
that's it. And I'm great, healthy, stable. Yeah. So yeah,
Just went away. And
it just
you're
went
all,
away.
yeah, listen, for anybody out there that's struggling, just like it'll just go
Yeah,
away. You're fine.
it's no problem. Yeah. Yeah, so I went to college and I gained some weight. I remember going to like once a week I would treat myself and go to Arby's and they would have a chicken cordon bleu sandwich and french fries and I loved it. And so my schedule was such that I had a break that I could go to Arby's in between. Um and so I don't know what I put on the freshman 15. But I just kinda loosened up a little bit, but I kept my walking. I, still tried to kinda watch it, but I gained a little weight, but I looked great. I'm sure, like, just fine. Um, but at my job, I think it was in between my sophomore and junior year. I was doing some work at the company where I worked in the summer. I was staining some decks, and, we would always have, like, once a month we'd have a weekly lunch meeting and I'm pretty sure we had like Little Caesars pizza and I had grabbed a couple pieces of pizza and I loved their crazy bread. So I grabbed a couple pieces of crazy bread and someone made a comment about, you know, oh, you better um maybe put one of those breadsticks back, you don't want to fall through these decks that you just stained. And I was horrified again. I just felt that exact same feeling I felt, when I was going into high school. And I remember sitting at that meeting. I didn't eat a thing. And I was just horrified. And I just was like, how did you let yourself go? I just immediately thought, oh, I'm just like terrible, terrible. And this is when I really, really um, this was my worst bout with anorexia. So pretty much junior and senior year of college, I was very, very restrictive. I had like one of those little like pudding cup size things of Special K with like a splash of milk. That was my breakfast. I had the same lunch every day, a bagel, an apple, and a yogurt. That was my biggest meal of the day. And then at dinner, I would try, and I would always have these meals by myself. Always, I didn't want to eat in front of people. I didn't want people to question what I was eating or critique what I was eating. I just wanted to be left alone. And then at work, in between lunch and dinner, I would go to the 7-Eleven and I would get a big gulp of Diet Coke. I probably had had 6 cans of Diet Coke before this. I just kind of lived on Diet Coke. But I get a big gulp and then like 2 pieces of bazooka gum. And that was kind of my treat. And I would just keep the gum in the side of my mouth. I totally have enamel problems right now because of it. Every time I go to the dentist, he knows, but sometimes someone there doesn't and they'll ask me about it. And so I have to like relive that a little bit. But that's kind of how I got through the afternoon until I had something for dinner. And And then my dinner, I was working almost full time at the time, plus full time school. I didn't eat at home a lot. A lot of times I was just kind of in between school and work. So I love those days because I could have like a can of chicken noodle soup and like I gave myself like 5 saltines. And that was pretty much all I ate. Um, and I got down to um, I think 86 pounds. And at the time I was really upset. My boss at my work told me that, they were concerned about me. And if I kind of didn't get myself together, I could find another job. And I was very offended.
Which is so
I
crazy, though. It is
Yeah,
crazy from today's standards
absolutely.
that they would
Yeah.
feel comfortable.
Yes. I was just like, this is none of your business. I'm getting my work done. I'm doing a good job. Um
Did your
I
mom like also, but you still lived at home.
I still
So
lived at
did
home.
your
Yeah.
mom must have been concerned.
Oh, my mom was horrified and you know, I don't know how she put up with me.
But put
But
up with you, but wasn't she worried? Like, why
oh,
are you so
100%.
thin? Are you having a health
Yes.
problem? Are you eating? And you probably
Yes.
lied and said
Well,
you were
she
eating.
she knew about this because she knew from my high school experience and I don't know that as much was known back then as is today about eating disorders. But yeah, she was very concerned and um I was very just kind of leave me alone. Um yeah, just not pleasant to be around. Just not happy.
You think that was also because I mean, I want to also talk about this later, like advice to moms.
Yeah,
Probably a lot of moms our age listen to this show and might be
yeah,
concerned about their teenage daughters eating. I'm wondering though if your prickliness was to kind of keep people from trying to ask too many questions because
a
you don't
hundred,
want to
hundred
change your
percent.
behavior.
Yes, 100%.
So if you're
I
just a
wanted to.
bitch, then nobody's going to want to deal with you. Then you're like, good.
Yes, yeah. No, I just wanted to be left alone, and you know, my weight was like number one. What I was weighing was the most important thing. It was some sort of correlation to my worth, and the smaller I was, the better. Kind of the better, which is ridiculous, but yeah, I no, but my mom and dad were both very, very, very concerned, and um, looking back on it now, I am so happy that my boss did this, but he pretty much forced me to go see an eating disorder therapist, and I only saw her for about 5 months. This was my senior year. It was right as I was graduating, and she really helped me kind of understand that, one of my hangups was eating the sweets that I loved so much. And
You
I
had a
had this.
thing too where you were like, I'm only
Yes.
gonna have, yeah, tell people about your
Yeah.
weird thing. Not
Yeah.
weird. I mean
Just
your
my
thing, which
rules.
is your
Yeah.
rule about dessert.
Yeah. So I I told myself that I could have a dessert on holidays and birthdays, and that was it. No sweets. And so I was very rigid about that kind of thing, and it was kind of fine in the first of the year because we had several birthdays in a row, but like from like June until like, you know, uh I feel like it was, yeah, my brother's birthday's in November. Like it was just like the desert. Um and so I loved that period of time where I actually got to have a dessert, but
Isn't
I
it
just
amazing? And I think people do this with other things too, but the rules we'll make for ourselves as if it's some magical, like, okay, this is how it works. I figured it out. If you have a dessert, one dessert in January, one dessert in February and one dessert in March and then nothing till November. Like that's how life works. That's how
That's exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly how I was. And so I always was, literally counting the days. Okay, in 38 days, it's dad's birthday or whatever, so I'll get a piece of cake.
would you have a big piece of cake?
Oh no, no. It's just, teeny tiny little like half scoop of ice cream. But after you eat it, you feel a little guilty and like, but it's kind of really what I was living for was the next dessert. And so yeah, just really kind of crazy. Um
So your food therapist.
so my food therapist helped me understand, it's okay to have dessert. And I kept a food journal, and I would drop it off with her at my appointment, and then I'd take a new food journal, and I would have to write down what I ate, how I felt when I was eating. Um, I had never, nobody in Utah had therapy. Like, you know what I mean? Like nobody, that just wasn't a thing. And so you just didn't really talk about how you were feeling
Now, I
about
always feel
anything.
like Mormon people, from all the crime podcasts I've listened to and
Yeah.
everything, I always feel like Mormon people are very big though on keeping journals.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes, yes, that's a huge thing. And I do have a lot of journals from when I was younger, and yeah, it's really big. And so I would express my feelings in my journals, but you just didn't talk to other people about your deepest um thoughts and fears. And so it was just really interesting, and I just felt so safe to tell her what I thought and
at
what
that
was
point at the
upsetting.
beginning,
Mhm.
were you eating still only your regimented, like,
Yes.
and then you would just, so your food journal would just be like little thing of Special K or whatever,
Yes.
cup
Yes.
and a chicken noodle soup. So would
Yeah.
she say, hey,
Yes. Yeah, she would say, "Hey, instead of the Diet Coke for breakfast, how about some juice?" And I was just like, "No way. I am not drinking 100 calories. That's ridiculous. No." So I never really did that, but like it registered, it did register. But like I remember in the journal, my mom makes the best banana cream pie, and she just made a banana cream pie for Sunday dinner. And I remember writing in my journal, I just decided to have a piece, even though it wasn't a special occasion. And she was like, she put like stickers in it, like your elementary school sticker, like great. And you know, like this is amazing. And she's like, and nothing happened, right? And so it really worked for me. Like that feedback and that validation about my feelings, and that it's okay, make doing something different is okay, really, really helped me. And I had a trip scheduled to go to Europe for graduation with a friend. And I had to make my dad just told me, my mom and dad, but I mainly remember my dad just telling me, "Hey, we're very concerned about you, and we don't, you need to gain some weight in order to go on this trip." And so the deal I made with him was to weigh 90 pounds. And so I gained the weight, and it was scary. In the back of my mind, I thought, as soon as I get back, I'll just lose it. But for whatever reason, the therapy clicked. I came back from Europe, and I just stopped. I stopped doing it. Um, and I think I maintained around 125 pounds for years, years and years. Still exercising was important, but I didn't have the same rules. Um,
did you ever discover
yeah,
during that time? And I know, again, we could say, like, okay, yay, so totally cured,
done.
fine,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
good, end of show.
yeah.
23 minutes, we're good.
That's it.
Uh, but when I mean, I'm interested in if you figured out, because the behavior is one thing. I wonder how important it is to figure out, like, what are those feelings? Are they feelings underneath it that you're trying to tamp down with controlling your weight? I mean, do you think it was
Yeah.
just random, like something clicked in you and then you got caught up, or did you discover that there were feelings of like any childhood stuff or just low self-esteem, or what that was? Because that's
You know,
pretty drastic. I mean, 86
it's
pounds.
really drastic. I think I really don't know why I did it. I think self-esteem definitely, just to have a stupid comment, offhand comment that someone made that they never even really thought twice about, just joking kind of thing. Um, but like I just really took it to heart and I really placed a lot of value on my worth in my size for whatever reason. And, I think too in college, I was pretty stressed out. Um, I worked a lot. Um, just that whole thing of like, what's next? What am I gonna do with my life? I think just all those feelings were hard to kind of to deal with. And it was just really comforting to just live in this routine and to kind of live in this self-imposed structure. If I had this regimented day, I could control that. And it just felt like I was getting to a place where, oh, there's all these things that I'm not quite sure that I'm going to be able to control when I graduate from college, and I think that that's what it was. I kind of wish I would have continued doing therapy. She was in Ogden, which was an hour away and, wasn't super convenient, but she was kind of the only one around, and so, in retrospect, I probably should have continued going or continued some sort of therapy, um,
I'd love for
but
you to touch on,
yeah.
which was taking you back a little bit, that incident. It's not really an incident, but that time that you went back to school shopping with your sister and
Mhm.
you realized that your body was changing. Because
Yeah.
I think that that can sometimes spark off, like when you're a young girl and then your body starts changing.
Yeah, yeah, I think that that kinda goes back to, this would have been probably, like, middle school era. Um, and, my parents were so, like, generous with back to school. We always got 5 outfits, and we got new underwear and new bras and new socks, and, looking around at my friends, they didn't get that, and, we didn't have a ton of money, but my parents really tried hard to, and they always wanted us to have, gas and Gerbo and the nice things. And um, they had to work a lot to do that. But I just remember going, I don't remember how old exactly I was. I'm pretty sure it was middle school. And I just remember going to Mervyn's and like having to go to like the juniors department, but also kind of relieved that I wasn't gonna have to try on clothes in the, like, girls section, um, because I knew, like, nothing was gonna fit me, um, but, I also remember my little sister, super cute, just perky cute, uh, happy kid, lots of friends, trying on all these cute clothes and just that feeling of, like, that's never gonna be me again. I'm always gonna have to wear clothes that are a little bit bigger than how, like, clothes used to be, like, size 6, you were 6 years old. Remember that?
Of
That I don't
course,
know
6X.
6X and yeah, and, like, that was just, like, horrifying for me, like, I had to be whatever age I was, I had to be whatever I was supposed to be, and, at kinda later elementary, middle school, I wasn't, and that I just felt like wasn't, um I just wasn't
I
I
feel
just
like
didn't want to be different,
I
you
feel like
know?
I remember the story too. Correct me if I'm wrong, being
Yeah.
that you found something cute,
Yeah.
but then you needed it one size up and you were like
Yes.
horrified. You were like,
Yeah.
what? Like, I
Yeah.
don't wear a size three or
Right.
whatever it was.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you were like, felt horrible after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like, you know, I just didn't want to be different. I just wanted to be what was expected of me. I just wanted to be um the right size,
So
if that makes
you
sense.
get you
So
have therapy, you're graduating college, you obviously adjust. I mean, you gained a good amount of weight because you became a normal weight.
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And then life goes on.
Yeah. Life goes on.
Are you restricting at all, or are you just
No,
like,
just exercise, mainly managing weight through exercise. Again, big walker. Walking. I was a really big walker.
were you
Had
really
to walk
rigid
for
about that?
very rigid about that. Had to walk 30 minutes a day. Um, I would, at this point in time, I was living alone. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, cracking the Diet Coke on the way to the gym. Um, being at the gym for mainly on the treadmill, just walking in the winter and outside in the summer. But you know, and then living my life. I got married, and married for 6 years before we had a baby, which in Utah is very. I was old. I was 27.
Oh God.
I know. I was like total spinster. Um, so, but then we waited for a long time to have kids, which is even weirder in Utah. And my father passed away, and that week that he passed away, I told my husband, I'm just really sad that like my dad's never gonna know kid if we have kids, they're never gonna know him. And we started trying to have a baby. Um, that like I stopped taking birth control that week, and my I had a baby like a year and 1 day after he died,
Wow.
and everything was fine. Like everything was great. Um, my daughter's almost two, and I asked my husband, I'm like, we really should have one more. Like, I don't want her to have to take care of us. She needs to have someone to help, So
And after you
we,
had your daughter, you
yeah,
didn't you the weight kind of came back off. It didn't.
yeah, really, really easily. I, you know, people told me if you nurse that would help, and I wasn't excited about nursing, but I thought, well, I'll give it a try, and I actually ended up really loving it. But it really was hard with work and, all of that kind of stuff. So I did it for 6 months. Weight came off back to normal just fine, no problem. Um, and so we get pregnant again a couple of years later, and pregnant with twins. I was terrified. I was terrified of a lot of things. Terrified of, am I going to be able to work? How could I afford daycare for 3 kids? Um, how much weight am I going to gain with twins? I felt like I gained a lot of weight with my daughter, and I'm so small. I was pregnant everywhere with my daughter, like my face, my back, my arms, my leg. I just felt like I was huge,
Girl,
and
same.
this is really hard. And so I was scared to be pregnant with twins, and you go along for a couple of months, and then you kind of get excited about it. And we were 2 boys, and it was like great. We have one of each. We can be done. Well, two boys and a girl. We've got both genders. That's great. And then I start thinking about, oh, this will be fun. Little League and um, matching clothes and all the stuff. And then, we go into the, 5-month ultrasound and find out that one of the babies had died. And they were not identical, so there was no danger to the living baby. But it was very shocking. It was shocking. It was, sorry, shocking. It was, looking back at it, it was really devastating. It was it was weird because there was no danger to the other baby, and there was nothing to be done, and so I just had to carry on with the pregnancy, knowing that one of the babies had passed away. And, we also, you're kinda like, "Well, what happens when we have these babies? Like, are we gonna have a baby that looks like, is it gonna look like a baby when the other baby's born?" Or it was just really, there was just all these weird things that we just didn't know how to do, and I we just I had this toddler at home, I was working, I had another baby that I had to make sure was gonna be okay, and, I spent the rest of the pregnancy trying to make other people comfortable with this bad thing that happened to me and my husband. And a lot of, I think this happened for a reason. I probably, you know, probably really you only kind of get what you can handle. I just did a lot of trying to justify it was this tragedy that happened. I just didn't want people to feel bad for us. And so we kind of just lived our life and didn't really talk about what had happened. I never really talked about what had happened. And my husband, I never asked him, "Are you okay?" And we just, we were busy and we were dealing with our kid, and um, so it was just it was just this thing that was just really, you just kind of didn't know what to do with. So we have our son. He's healthy. He's fine. Um, the other baby didn't look like a baby, so we just decided to do like a medical waste situation, which felt so, just so kind of, it just felt so careless. I don't know if that's the right word. But we didn't know what else to do, and I didn't want this big production over it. I had this new baby. He was healthy. I should be grateful for what I have. And so that was kind of how I handled that. And so, I had weighed like 172 pounds when I had given birth, and just was horrified, like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be really hard to get this weight off." And so I decided, a couple things. Um, I kind of started running a little bit. My husband, is definitely more active than I was. And so, I'd see him running half marathons and I'd be like, "Oh, that looks kind of fun. I wonder if I could do that." But I hated running. So, you know, I would just go cheer him on. Um, but so I would do some 5Ks or just some 30-minute jogs, that kind of thing. But I thought, I wonder if I could run a half marathon to help me lose some of this baby weight. And so I really got into running, but I also decided, you know what? I think I need a little extra help. So I'm going to go to Weight Watchers to help me lose this weight. And so went to Weight Watchers and um, loved everything about it. You know, there's rules, there's points, there's math, it's easy, makes sense to me. Um, it spoke to me. I'm like, I can do this. And it really just helped me to kind of get back on track a little bit with feeling in control of, like, I'm in control of myself now. I'm going to do this. And then I also started um, training for a half marathon that we did. Um, I think my son he was almost 1 when we ran that half marathon. And I actually really loved it. And so, um, for the next couple of years, I just ran and ran and lots of half marathons and went to Weight Watchers. I made my lifetime goal before I even ran that first marathon, my targeted weight that I had said that I wanted to weigh. And you know what? I just did it again. I just kept losing weight. I just kept losing weight. And
And you changed your goal.
I did. Yeah. So my healthy weight range, they told me, was like 109 to I want to say 135 or something like that. And I had told them, I want to get back to my 125. So I hit that 125 really quick. Um, and so I'm like, well, why don't let's go to 115. That's not bad. It's still within my healthy. It's healthy. So let's do that. So I went down to 115.
And I'm sure the Weight Watchers people were all the happier to go, oh,
Sure.
great, we're keeping you in the fold.
Keeping you.
And
Yep.
you have to keep paying because now you
Yes.
have a different
I have a
weight
new
goal.
goal now. But as all anorexics do, I hit that goal pretty quickly. And so I kept that goal. I actually kept that goal for probably 10 years. But, when I really got, um, I decided to try to run a full marathon before I turned 40. And so it was about a month before my 39th birthday, I did run a full marathon. And that takes it out of you. And um, I was down to like 107 at that time. And so I did not want to be kicked out of Weight Watchers. And so my tricks at Weight Watchers, is I wouldn't eat before I went to Weight Watchers. I would go on like a 6 to 8 mile run, no water, no nothing. And then I would make sure to go to the bathroom before I went, and then I'd go weigh. And when I was down that low, like it was fine if I was lower than 115, but I couldn't be lower than 109. That was not okay. They were going to kick me out. So when I was down to 107, I would wear a hoodie when I weighed in. I wouldn't take my shoes off. I would throw my car keys in my um, pocket of my hoodie. And I did that probably for about 6 months just to stay in the program. And I, over time after that, I, I was able to kind of keep around the 115, but I was leaning on the no desserts unless it's holidays or birthdays. And yeah, I kind of kept doing that for a long, long time. And I think what's helped me now. At the time I was frustrated about it, was just COVID. I got a running injury. Um, we got a dog, so I started walking my dog more than running, and I, I'm of that age now where I'm working my way through menopause, and I gained weight, and it's hard. It's really hard because I was able to keep that weight for a long, long time, and I was really proud of that. And um, I haven't been able to, and it's kind of this double-edged sword where I know that it's like 115 is probably not enough for me. I need to weigh a little more than that. Um, but this is the most I've weighed in my whole adult life, and it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing um, to kind of reconcile. Um, but
It's really brave to share.
yeah.
And I think it's very interesting because so many of us, and you're in my writing group.
Mhm.
For anybody that wants to write a memoir, I have
Yeah,
openings.
it's great fun.
Yeah, and there is like a theme. I mean, people struggle with things that they don't necessarily talk about. And we're living in this society where we are still very focused on weight loss. We now
Yeah.
GLPs are becoming a huge thing.
Yep.
I've tried it. even because I think this is a thing that people really struggle with. And it must be such a unique struggle for you to know that you have been on the opposite end of it where where you've spent so many years restricting yourself and punishing yourself about the number on the scale, and then it still must be hard to just go, but mentally it's better for me to weigh a little. Like, who cares? The thing is,
Right.
it's so hard to go, you have this husband who freaking adores you, always
Mhm.
has, would
Yep.
not care. I mean, I have that too. They don't
Yeah.
care about the number on the scale. So what
No.
is it that is so locked into our brains and our psyches? And as I could say, as
Yeah.
women, maybe some men have this too, that even at the age you are now and going through menopause, it's still difficult to just go, why can't I just be happy?
Yeah.
Why do
Yeah.
I always have to be striving for a goal or wanting to be
Yeah.
thinner or wanting to be this certain number on the scale? And I think it's brave to acknowledge that after all the years of this, you're not cured. You're not like,
No.
oh, now I just like have dessert when I want it. And as long as I'm exercising, I'm fine.
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know what that is. It's 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 really hard. Like it's it's really hard to be a woman, you know? There's just a lot of weird things that start happening to your body when get to be around my age, and um I don't know. It's interesting though, I do have an amazing husband, and he's also noticing things as well, and we, of course, we have talked about the loss of our baby. It took us probably, gosh, 13 or 14 years till we actually really talked about it, and it was really great to understand how he felt when this happened, things I just didn't quite understand, and um that was very healing. Um, that helped. And it's been nice to, my husband's starting to do different sort of exercise with me as well. He's a, you know, cyclist, a bike racer. And, we're kind of at a place in our lives where like we don't want to like get up at 4 or 4:30 in the morning every morning to exercise. We enjoy going on walks with our dogs. Um we like to talk when we're exercising, and um I think that's been really helpful for me. Um it's kind of helped me feel a little more comfortable in this body than than I have in the past. And I just wish that it wasn't that way. I just really wish that there wasn't such a focus on how people looked, you know. It's It is really kind of sad that that's that way and that we
Maybe,
torture ourselves.
and maybe like before we wrap, as a mom to a daughter too,
Yeah,
that must feel important to you to strive to have more body acceptance, like for your daughter, so that she can have
100%.
that same acceptance,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to not like, I know that for me, I've always had, no matter what's going on in my head, I've had to be really careful not to denigrate how I
Yeah.
look and have it be about weight and ever talk about calories or say, and one time, and I know I told you this story, but one time many years ago, like my sister-in-law, who did not have kids at that point, came over and was like, "Oh my God, I'm such a fat fuck. I am like too fat to live." And I lost
Yeah.
my shit. I was like, "You cannot,"
Yeah.
even though my kids were pretty young at the time, I was like, "You cannot talk that way
Yeah.
ever in front of my kids."
Oh, I I think that's great that you did that. I I have my daughter's 20. She's beautiful. She's a dancer. She's in college in a modern dance program, and, you know, has been dancing since she was 3, and I never wanted her to do competition dance because I knew how just I just didn't want her to get sucked into the all the body stuff associated with dance, and I think it's a different world now than it was when I was growing up, and I also did dance a little bit, nothing near or anywhere near as good as my daughter is, but, um, she it I feel bad because I was in the throes of a lot of this when she was growing up, and I don't think I was as, cognizant of that behavior. And um, yeah, I've tried really hard as she's grown up, even with my son. And I've told them about my struggles and kind of what I've gone through. And then I just don't want that for them. I just want them to love themselves no matter what. And um my daughter my daughter, thank goodness, she loves food. She loves to eat. But she's very conscious of what she's eating and the exercise that she's getting just because of what she's kind of doing right now in her life. And um I can't say that I'm not worried about that. It does worry me, and I'm trying really hard to not say those things about myself at all, but for sure not in front of my kids. But man, it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to put yourself down. And yeah, I really struggle with that. I'm trying so hard to not do that. Um, but yeah, like I say, I feel like I was not a great example when they were a little younger because I was kind of doing all this stuff to myself and going to Weight Watchers and all that stuff. So I I'm hoping though that sharing more about this helps people understand that
That's all you can do is try to
yeah,
break the cycle, you know?
right.
I
Right.
mean, your mom before you also restricted food, but you
Hmm.
guys never really talked about it. So at
No.
least you're open about your struggles. And I think that helps the next
Yeah,
generation go, oh, okay, this is a thing that goes on and that I could get caught up in this kind of thinking.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's addictive thinking. It's very addictive. It's very compulsive behavior. It's very um it's a hard thing to break. It's a really hard thing to break.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your
Yeah.
story, Misty.
Oh, of
I
course.
think this is honestly going to help a lot of people. We have to have more stories where people are like, "Hey, I'm still struggling."
Yeah.
It's not like you know, I mean, anorexia
Yeah.
is a very difficult thing. It's very hard to just cure it. You know,
Yeah.
it's a whole way of thinking. And if we could just acknowledge that, you know, the a compulsive nature, whether it's drinking, shopping, food, it's really
Yeah.
all about the same thing.
It is. As I've heard you talk about, um, listening to your podcast for all these years, several of your podcasts, there are so many similarities with, um, when I've heard you explain your struggles. There's just so many similarities, and it's so relatable. Um, it's all just a coping thing or a way to deal with your emotions. And yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. And yeah, I appreciate you having me on to talk about it.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Feeling like